congratulations on today, and congratulations on the reunion. I've been a fan of Fright Night ever since I saw it in college way back when, and it's, to me, maybe, no, I'm not going to even say maybe, the best vampire movie ever made in history. Yes. So thank you, Tom Holland. Heck yeah. Sir, Tom, what is it like for you to, nearly 40 years after the release of that film, to see it have still such a life to it in a way that so many non-cinematic universe, non-franchise films do? What's your take on its enduring popularity?
Oh, it's incredibly moving. Personally, I've had some other big successes, but nobody. What's happened to Fright Night is it's become multi-generational. People will say to their grandchildren, "I want to introduce you to a family movie called Fright Night and introduce you to monsters," and so it's become. I get 3 generations at a time telling me how much they love the movie, and I don't. That doesn't happen with Psycho 2, and they don't do that with Child's Play, but with Fright Night, yes, and they love the characters. And I think it's because it's my love letter to the horror movies that I grew up with. When they had horror hosts, like, Elvira and Stagger Lee, and that's who Peter Vincent is. And it's just, I wanted to be Charlie Brewster. I couldn't think of anything greater than becoming convinced as a mad horror fan that there was a vampire living next door. And it's funny. You can hear them laughing now, but it has humor. And Fright Night is laced with humor, and at the same time it has heart. Peter Vincent is the heart. Charlie Brewster, Bill Ragsdale is the engine that drives it, and it's just a warm, fun, loving movie. And people love horror who love Fright Night because it's just a wonderfully entertaining, fun experience. And I am blessed. I am so lucky. I really am.
Bravo.
Yeah. Bravo. Congratulations.
All of the songs.
I love what you just said there about this story, this movie, this table read, whatever form it takes, being a celebration of not just the horror genre, but a horror fan. And Charlie, especially as our hero, is somebody who is obviously a horror fan. And when this film came out in 1985, it was still a little rare to have a horror fan not be treated as like the weirdo around the block who nobody wants to talk to. Obviously, things have changed in the 40 years since. Do you think it would be easier in today's world, today's horror fandom world, for a Peter Vincent to be more easily convinced that vampires are real, for a Charlie to be more easily accepted, or even Evil Ed?
Yes, I mean, when I was in high school back in the dark ages, there were 3 or 4 other guys. There were no women. Maybe 3 or 4 guys in high school who were into horror, and we'd stay up on Friday nights and watch the Friday Night Frights, which is at the local television channel at 11 o'clock. And that was the only place you could see anything. And then we had EC Comics, which got banned in 1954 or 5. Anybody remember?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Seduction of the Innocent, yeah.
They were banned. You couldn't. We used to take EC comic books and we put them in plastic wrappers and hide them around the high school so you could go out behind the trees or whatever and read the newest issue of whatever EC Comics were. This is Stephen King. This is all of Stephen King's short stories. Same thing. But so it wasn't. There was, and I was when I came out with Fright Night, which is the first movie that I directed. Everybody in Hollywood told me I had to get out of horror right away because it was considered. This is 1984-5. It was considered the redheaded stepchild. Nobody wanted to be associated with horror. Now, as everybody knows, it is the most remunerative, biggest independent genre that's supporting movies today. The most interesting movies are made in the horror genre, and they're coming out all the time, and people are creating them. and some of them really, really work, and they get a chance to get into the mainstream. No other genre is doing that. Rom-com is dead. Comedy is dead. You can't do comedy in your room. You got to see comedy with a whole audience to really get it. You know, so my lifetime has been watching the horror genre grow to where now it is just huge, and I'm so happy. And it's also one of the reasons that Fright Night has become increasingly popular. We're talking about a movie that's 40 years old. I mean, nobody can remember a movie from last year. And here we are with Fright Night. I'm blessed. We're all blessed. Thank you to the public out there for this and for loving Fright Night.
Absolutely. Well, we love it so much. In that vein, obviously one of the enduring things about, as I said earlier, it's the best vampire movie, but the vampire as a horror creature is obviously enduringly popular, so evergreen. In your own words, and this is anyone who wants to answer, but certainly you, Tom, why do you think the vampire is still so popular these days?
Well, I don't know. I wrote a movie called Cloak and Dagger, and I said, which was a remake of The Window. And I said, if you really want to do a movie with a kid seeing something out the window next door, make him a mad horror fan and do it with vampires. Have him see a vampire next door. And Universal threw me out of the office. Okay? Yeah. I mean, vampires in 1985 were dead, dead, dead. Yeah. And I don't mean just the undead. I mean dead. I mean, the last gasp had been the George Hamilton movie Love at First Bite, which is a spoof. And when they start doing comedies about the genre, it means the genre's exhausted. And that's where when Fright Night came in. And I just got very, very lucky that Guy McElwain at Columbia gave me the go-ahead, but it was because I was so hot as a writer. But, you know, I like to think that Fright Night began the resuscitation of the vampire genre, which now, of course, is absolutely huge. But so is any monster. But anyway, it's been a hell of a trip.
Oh, yeah. You have assembled an incredible reading cast here. Obviously, so many of the original cast members from the original film, as well as Mr. Mark Hamill, Miss Rosario Dawson. One person, of course, who can't be here because he's the dearly departed Roddy McDowell, is just such a key figure in the original movie. He's such an amazing actor. He's got a rich history. Do you have any special memories of him you might want to mention at this time?
About Roddy?
Yeah.
Well, I could go on for an hour. Roddy was great. Roddy was a walking film history. He was an oral history of the film business because he started when he was like 8 years old. I think he did. Mark Hamill just told me he did How Green Was My Valley when he was 10.
Yeah.
And Roddy lived in perpetual fear that he would never cross over from being a child actor to being an adult actor, and he felt that way when he was well in his 50s. You know, he was kind, he was giving. He had me and my wife over so many nights to his house, and we met so many of my heroes, famous people, famous directors. But he had a good heart, and I didn't think anybody could ever take his place. And then 4 years ago, we did a reading through Zoom. And Mark Hamill was kind enough to stand in for Roddy, and he worked with Roddy in Great Britain in a TV movie. And he knew him, and he somehow became Peter Vincent, Mark Hamill. And he made Peter Vincent work. As you know, part of it was Roddy, but it was also Mark being Mark. And that's why when I saw that, I realized that I had to get the cast back together again to do a reading that that had really high sound quality that I got with Manifest Media and Jack Levy. And then we worked, and I don't know, I've been working for 4 years to get this together. And this what you see here in front of you is the result of 4 years of work. And I'm just thrilled. I'm so happy. I cannot. I'm nervous.
Well, it looks like it's going to go off without a hitch. How's that process been, putting this whole show together? Has it been like putting together a radio show in a way?
Oh, it's been like putting together a feature film.
Really?
This. Look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is called deficit financing. You know? So if you're out there, people, watch this. We're going to need the money to pay the debt. You know?
And finally, what do you think? Is there? I know there's obviously been the 1988, not part 2, and then there's the 2011 remake, and there's been various books and comics and such.
We have Julie Carmen here from Fright Night. Too.
Oh, Fright Night Julie Carmen. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. But what do you, Tom? Do you think there might be more for Fright Night down the road?
There sure is going to be coming from me, because I wrote this as an original. And I withheld and owned the rights to Fright Night dramatic, literary, and musical. And yes, if you've been with us last night at the New Beverly and seen what happened there, yes, I've got more Fright Night stories with me. You can find the first one on Amazon called Fright Night Origins, and that's there. And we're coming out with a new one called Fright Night Aftermath, and I'm going into my dotage writing Fright Night stories, and I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky that I have it.
I think we're blessed too, Tom. Thank you all so much. Congrats on the show today. Break legs. You're so cool, Brewster.
Thank you. God bless. Okay. God bless, man. God bless.